Okay, chapters, what'd you get it started? Chapters 7 and 8, I want to go over a few things there. So, your day with Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, right? And then also, we see exactly what's going on there. But we'll talk about a few things. But before we get going on some of these questions, obviously each assignment, when you get done reading the two chapters or listening to them, whatever you're doing, there's always 3 assignments. There's the vocabulary part. We're doing all right with that. But some of the times when you have to write an answer, some of you are being very vague. Or you also need to be careful when you're looking in the dictionary. A lot of times words mean more than one thing. Don't just write down the first definition that it's giving you. Okay? Look back at the context of the sentence. Okay, they were talking about this in that sense. Okay, like if we use the word mane, and we're talking about we're on the back of a horse and we're holding on to a mane of hair. So I said, well, what's a mane? And then you put down the main idea. Well, that's because you looked up the word mane and you took. Now that's spelled differently too, but it has a totally different meaning. Don't just write the first thing that you're coming across. Some of you are doing that, and then. Also, sometimes you're asked to give your own definition and then the dictionary definition, and your own definition, okay, is identical to the dictionary definition. It's got the exact same words. Obviously, you're just doing the first one there too. I'm not going to give you full points for it then. I want to see what, based on the context, the words around it, what does it look like? Don't just look at the word and skip the rest of the sentence and quick go look to the dictionary. But look at the words around it. What does it mean? Okay. Another thing, a lot of these questions in the question part that are deeper thinking have a scriptural text assigned to them. Don't just copy down the text and say, here's my answer. I gave you the text. I don't want you to write down the text. I want you to write it in your own words. Or it might say, apply this concept to you. And some of you, you're not applying it. You're just copying down the text, or you're trying to put some stuff there to quick get done with it. You need to really think about, in my life, how can I work on being truthful? Or how in my life can I exhibit kindness to those around me? Okay? And then put that down in 2 or 3, 4, maybe even 5 sentences, a whole paragraph you might need. Okay? So again, we're trying to get rid of, we talked about fluff, doesn't count. Okay? So don't just copy down the text. And then there's the worksheet parts. The worksheet part should be pretty straightforward. If you have some questions, you don't understand what you need to ask, please ask. I don't want you to flounder, do really bad. If you don't get it, and you're just guessing, then please ask. Now, the questions, again, that are asked that are based on scripture texts or kind of deeper, they are intended to be deeper thinking. They're intended to be harder questions for you. And you're not going to understand all of them. Please ask me here at school. If you don't understand, don't leave them blank. Don't put a bunch of gibberish in there, okay, that just will fill the page, because I'm going to grade it and look at it in depth. I'm going to say, sorry, you're missing the point here. So ask me for help. If school is out, you're at home, you're trying to finish it. You guys know what the phone is, right? Cell phone. I have a number you can call. It's in the book. Call me or send an email. Maybe I'll get to it later that night. You might be in bed, whatever, then you can at least get it the next morning. But at least we know, instead of just handing it in and saying, well, here it is, I couldn't get half of it, but whatever. We want you to learn to be successful. We want you to learn to do your best. Okay? So please, make sure you're being aware of those 3 things as we keep moving forward here. Okay? They're intended to be more difficult, to make us do a little bit deeper thinking. So don't think that, oh, I can't get it, so I must be dumb or I'm not smart. That's not the case. A lot of you aren't getting it. A lot of you are doing really bad on that part because you're not asking questions. Garrett and Joe just want you to throw the towels under your chairs there for now. No. All right, so The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Chapters 7 and 8, there were 4 questions that we asked you. How did each of the children feel when they heard the name of Aslan? Well, here again was a little bit of trouble. Somebody said they felt terrified. Well, the question asks for how did each of the children feel, and Mr. C.S. Lewis describes that each of them felt a little bit differently. What were some of those things? Courtney? Okay? Peter felt totally different than Susan did. Susan felt totally different than Lucy did. Okay? We know Edmund, he was totally different. That's why we ask him in the next question. So you need to describe here when this is important. Okay? As you move forward in school, you need to pay attention to the questions. How did each of the children feel? We need to describe that. But of course, the name Aslan, it made them feel terrified yet comforted. But how do how is it good and bad? We see that's an important thing. It goes back to Mr. Tumnus that it can be both good and bad. Okay? Well, it's just like God's name in the Bible. When the people would hear God speak, they're terrified of him, but yet they were drawn to him because they knew that they needed him. This was their God, so they were also very reverent, and we stand in awe before him. But the fear is different than necessarily a fear of afraid. It's a reverence. Now, why do you think Edmund felt mysterious horror upon hearing the name of Aslan? A lot of you correctly got this. Why did Edmund feel a lot of terror here? Micah?
Because he was on the witch's side, and Aslan was going to be on the witch's side.
Exactly. Just like in the Bible, we just had that. The friends of Adonijah, when they heard the trumpets, what did they do at that party? What did they do, Grant? They ran. They knew they were on the wrong side. They were on the losing side. And Edmund knows that here too. He feels that mysterious horror. On hearing the name of Aslan, he knows he's on the wrong side, but he's still too stubborn to change, right? Because, well, what's keeping him on the witch's side? Like a Turkish delight. It's drawn him in. Anyways, so that's again the temptation of sin. Sin is so tempting. It's something that draws us in. It takes over our hearts and our souls and our minds. Our whole lives are drawn to it. We can't get away from it. Okay? Think of a time in the Bible when the people of Israel were afraid when someone was speaking, and tell me about it. Now, some of you gave some different examples that, when this person, I didn't want an example of a person speaking, but we want an example of someone speaking when the whole nation of Israel is afraid. When was it? Some of us were right on. Others of us just gave examples of when people were maybe angry, mad, hollering at the people. Well, the people weren't afraid. They maybe felt ashamed, but not afraid. Faith?
When Mount Sinai was thunder and lightning, and the sound of the trumpet at Mount Sinai.
All right, at Mount Sinai, God came and he spoke to the people. Thunder and lightning, the ground shook, and the people were afraid. They were terrified to their hearts because of the great awesomeness of God. They knew they couldn't be in the presence even of his voice. They were fearful. It was an awesomeness. And so they asked Moses, please, can you go talk to God for us? We can't stand hearing that anymore. And that's exactly what hearing the name of Aslan is like for people here. Now, chapters 7 and 8 are full of biblical symbolism. And there's just a lot of symbolism that we saw there. Copy down one phrase from the book and describe its spiritual symbolism. Again, some of us just tried to maybe, make some stuff up, or you needed to show something from the book and then something from the Bible and how they are. You can tell how they are connected. Some of us had some great examples. Others of us maybe did half of it. Faith?
Aslan was a type of Christ.
Okay. So you say hearing the name of Aslan. Okay. It's like hearing the name of a type of Christ. What did Edmund do?
He betrayed Lucy like Peter betrayed Christ.
Okay. Another fine example. Okay. And there are plenty of others of just wonderful biblical truths, examples that we can show here. So again, when it's asking this, copy down one phrase from the book and describe it. So we needed a phrase from the book. Some of us didn't even do that. We just wrote down something of our own, but copy down a phrase from the book and describe its spiritual symbolism. Now go to the Bible and connect it to a person or a place or something. But we need to get that in there as well. Okay? Now, moving forward for today, okay, chapters 9 and 10, we can listen to those or you can read them. Okay? Let's just quick preview so that we don't have any trouble. Okay, chapter 9 worksheets, understand the special meaning. Just what does that word mean? Again, it's getting more to vocabulary again, but in your own words, write the meaning of the italicized word. So that's pretty straightforward. Chapter 10, matching synonyms is the first page. There's 15 of them. Matching antonyms, opposite words, is the second page. So that should be kind of a review thing for you. Okay, the vocab, that's pretty straightforward. And the chapters 9 and 10 questions, there's only 3. But again, we want some depth here. Lewis writes that deep down inside him, he really knew that the white witch was bad and cruel. But why did Edmund try to convince himself that the witch wasn't all that bad? What was his, in his mind, what was it that was a good reason to still be on the witch's side, even though he knew it was wrong? Read Romans 12, 6 through 8, 1 Corinthians 12, 4 through 11, and 1 Peter 4, verse 10. 4 texts. When Father Christmas gives the children gifts, he said these are tools, not toys. Because Christmas is coming, you guys think toys, but that's not the case here. The time to use them is perhaps near at hand. The example here, the scriptural comparison, is that tools that Father Christmas gives them are like talents and gifts God has given us. So again, how can we apply that? And then what are some signs for Edmund that he is on the wrong path? God tells us in the Bible we are on the pathway. It should be a narrow and often it might be a little bit bumpy and difficult path. But eventually, what does it lead to, Emma? Okay. And what's the other pathway like? Kimberly? No, what's the other pathway? Well, at least to hell, but what is it like? What is the pathway? Grant? Big, wide, smooth, and easy, right? It seems like smooth sailing, real easy. What are some signs as Edmund is on his way to the Queen's castle that he is on the wrong path? What are some things, just like God may put some stones in our way to trip us, to make us wake up and realize we're on the wrong path? I need to get back over there on the narrow path that leads to heaven. What are some things along the way that Edmund, so you got to find some evidence. One of them, do you think it's going to cut it, Katie? Because it says, how do you know? Where does it say more than one? Plural. The word signs is plural. You need more than one example here. You're going to do one example, you're going to lose a bunch of points. Okay? So, lots of options to do that. Okay? So you can read to or listen to chapters 9 and 10. Right now, read it, listen to it, and get those different, actually 4 because those worksheets are separate, but the worksheets, questions, and vocab. Okay, we'll give you some time now to work on it.